What are the different types of elves of Middle-earth, and why are some of them bestowed with tremendous powers? Is it because of their biology as immortal beings, or is it like specific talents that only a selected individuals possess, or is it all in the bloodline? Well, we will tell you all about them in this video. Do watch till the end, as we will also tell you which type of elves appeared in the movies. What are elves? They are the first children of Ilúvatar, or the god of creation of the world of Middle-earth. They are immortal and the fairest of the races, and also the wisest. They came to be in 1050 of the years of the trees. A total of 144 of them awoken and called themselves the Quendi. From this main branch come two groups, one group that followed the Valar called Orome, and they are called the Eldar, while the ones that refuse to follow him westwards are called the Are Elves. There are three types of elves in the Eldar: the Vanir, which were the first to awaken, the Noldor, which are the second ones, and the Teleri elves, which are the last to awaken. Some of the Are elves, the ones that didn't follow the westward journey, were most probably the ones that Melkor captured, corrupted, and transformed into orcs. So on their journey westwards, a group of the Teleri elves stayed back in the Greenwoods and Lothlorien forests and became known as the Sylvan elves, while another group of Teleri elves made their way to Beleriand and settled there and became known as the Green elves, or the Calaquendi. There were also a group of Teleri elves that were slow on their journey and only arrived in Beleriand after Orome had taken the Eldar to Valinor. They became known as the Sindar elves and made their home in Doriath, Mithrim, and the shores of Falos. All these elves that were stuck in Middle-earth are known as the Elves of Darkness, or the Dark Elves, or more Quendi. Not because they are dark and evil, but they have never seen the light of Valinor. They include the Sindar, the Sylvan, the Calaquendi, and the Are Elves. The group of elves that followed Orome to Valinor that reached the western continent were later known collectively as the High Elves, as they were called by the Númenóreans, or also the Elves of Light, or the Calaquendi. These elves include the Vanir, all of the Noldor, and a few of the Teleri elves. Aside from these, there were also elves which are of mixed in descent, mixed of heritage. Take the likes of Elrond and Elros. They were not only elves but also had their blood mixed with that of the Maiar and the great men of the First Age. So how are they all different? Well, biologically they were all the same. They were all tall in stature, slim and agile, they had fair complexion, and were amongst the bravest and the wisest of all races. They were also all immortal. So the only differences that they had between each other are the choices they made in life and the place they resided, and not to mention if they had seen the light of Valinor or not. So who are some of the most powerful elves from that universe, from Middle-earth? Well, from the second ones, or the Noldor, we have Fëanor, Fingolfin, Finrod, Galadriel, Turgon, Gil-galad, and Celebrimbor, just to name a few. Their source of power isn't a different anatomy or a different biological function, but their talents as elves that have seen the light of Valinor and that has strengthened their resolve, their spirituality, and most of all, their minds. Take for example Fingolfin, who is just another Noldor elf. He managed to have a lengthy duel against Morgoth and even wounded the Dark Lord 7 times before being defeated. Fëanor, who was able to withstand his ground against several Balrogs, and even Galadriel, who managed to banish Sauron to Mordor from Dol Guldur. Such deeds would have never been possible for any ordinary elf, or even the most powerful of men. So what are the powers that these elves have? Well, all elves themselves have greater spiritual powers than humans, as well as being immortal, and they can't die unless through physical injury or the loss of the will to live. They possess many gifts that humans would not have. High elves have the ability to see creatures of shadow like the Nazgul and the Wraiths, and they are also considerably more powerful than any other elf kind because of the light of Valinor that is within them. Some of them have the ability to summon the very magic or light of Valinor at will, as well as having tremendous telekinetic and telepathic abilities, as in the case of Galadriel, where she could speak to Frodo and Gandalf through the mind, as well as move things, disintegrating an orc, and even banish Sauron with her light. Due to their longevity, they also have had a lot more time to train in the ways of war. One can see that an elf can jump gracefully from tree to tree, have smooth swinging motions during sword fights, and even shoot arrows in perfect unison with near perfect aim. But they still seem to look fragile and die from single swings of the sword. Anyway, take for example a Sindar elf, Legolas. He is said to have far greater senses than most non-elven living beings, capable of seeing and hearing at far greater scales than men could, never missing a shot, and fight with near supernatural agility and flexibility, as well as climb up anything like a monkey, tower, tree, or oliphant. Does bloodline have anything to do with it, with powers and all? Well, maybe yes and no. It depends on the genetic expressions of the elven offsprings. Legolas is still a young elf, but powerful in his battle form. Nonetheless, much like his father Thranduil, Arwen has foresight, something that most elves do not, but her father Elrond also has. Galadriel was the daughter of Finarfin, who himself has both Noldor and Vanir blood in him. Galadriel was also the niece of Fëanor, the most important elf in the First Age. Unlike her predecessors, she possesses extremely potent abilities, even though she has never been to Valinor, which further proves the point that bloodlines are also an important factor in this world. So let's address one thing. Which are the kind of elves that was seen in The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy of movies? Well, the first ones that was seen in the Fellowship of the Ring were the Sindarin elves, traveling to the shores leaving for Valinor. The ones seen later in Rivendell were also Sindarin elves, except for Elrond, who was half human, and Arwen, who is his daughter, and they were of mixed descent, even from the elven side. On arriving in Lorien, most of the elves in that place were Sylvan elves, except for Celebrimbor and Galadriel, who were both of the Noldor stock. The ones seen in the Battle of Helm's Deep were also Sylvan elves, from Lorien, Lothlorien, and from the Hobbit movies, they were all Sylvan elves, from Greenwood or Mirkwood, except for Galadriel again, who was Noldor, and Elrond, who was mixed, and also Thranduil and Legolas, who were Sindarin elves. So now we come to the Rings of Power that show what are the elves that will be seen in it. That is still up for speculation as the series hasn't aired yet, but as of the trailer and the posters we can make certain educated guesses as well as state the ones we know for a fact. So we do know that Galadriel is one of the main characters and she is Noldor. We also have a younger Elrond and he is of mixed descent. We then have a new elf called Arondir and he is a Sylvan elf. Then we have another important elf called Gil-galad, who is of Noldor stock as well. He is the High King, the one that was killed by Sauron in the beginning of the movie Lord of the Rings. Aside from these, we are definitely going to see more of the Sindars and the Sylvans, mostly, and maybe a few of the Noldor or the Quendi and maybe even the Avari. Anyway, with that we come to the end of it, so do hit that like button for support and subscribe as well to be a part of the MindCube family. But most of all, smash that bell icon for regular updates on new videos right here on this channel. Till the next one, take care fam.